Hello, welcome to this Blender sculpting tutorial. We're going to do some very basic maneuvers, but we're going to get quite a nice result. So I'm just starting off with the basic Blender sculpt tool. So I'll go File, New, Sculpting, and we get this, which is very nice. It's a lovely ball with lots of geometry in it. If I go up here to the overlays and then turn on geometry, you can see it's quite dense, and that gives us a lot of plasticity to kind of work with. Let's turn off that because it's annoying, especially in sculpt mode. And then we're going to turn on symmetry up on here with this little kind of butterfly thing, and we could turn on X, so you can see where I'm pointing. I've got a little ghost point over the other side reflecting that, and then I'm just going to click on this Y so that I've got a full front-on view. Now the first thing to start with is a kind of a general shaping brush, and we'll start with the sculpt mode elastic deform brush, but I need much bigger than this, so I'm going to go up to the properties here for the tool and then just increase my diameter. And now I can grab at the bottom and pull it down into a kind of an inverse egg shape. So you've got kind of the top of the head here, and we've got the bottom of the head here, so it's tapering down to the chin. So that should do the job. I'm just going to center up a little bit, and then I'll rotate around, and I want to get to kind of the side view, and then I'm pointing towards the back of the head, so I'm going to pull it backwards. But if I sort of do it from this side and then rotate round, you'll see it kind of works, but if your brush is too small, it will only kind of select part of it, and you'll get a big ridge down the middle here, which is not what we're after. So just be careful of that. So let's just shape this out a little bit, and I kind of push that up, pull that down, pull down at the bottom a bit, pull the front a little forward, so I've got a nice kind of head shape. And we're not going for anything anatomically correct here. I'm going for like a characterized monstery kind of thing, just for a bit of fun. There we go. So somewhat along those lines, and I generally start with like a basic human head shape, and then kind of expand it out and change the proportions so that it's a bit more caricatured, or a bit more brutish, or a bit more delicate, depending upon what you're doing. So let's just center this up. You'll forgive me, I'm on a tablet at the moment, I'm not the best at it. There we go. I've had quite a bit of practice on it, and I'm still not very good, so you have to bear with me. There we go. So let's just rotate that around to the front again, and just so I'm absolutely in the front, I'll click on there to do that. Okay, so that's our basic head shape. So when we come back in, what we'll do is we'll start to sketch in the bigger kind of features of the head to get some more shaping. So I shall talk to you then. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. If my pen will actually zoom, there we go. It's because I wasn't focused on this application. There we go, get it nice and big in the viewport. And then we're going to just reduce the size of our brush here. Whoops. There we go. So it's much smaller, but not that much smaller. Let's try a little bit bigger than that. And I just want to be able to just grab more isolated bits and shape this into something sort of skull shaped. So I'm pulling in the cheeks and pulling down the cheekbone there, just to get it somewhere about right. And one important thing to do is to rotate quite a lot to check all angles, essentially everything, just have a look around, because when you're doing something from one direction, it doesn't necessarily look right when you look in a different direction. So we just keep an eye on that. Let's pull that back a little bit. up, pull those down. There we go, that's not too bad. I'll just get onto the front again. And then we're going to need something for an eye, but this brush is too big, especially at that sort of distance. I'm going to zoom in a bit. That's a bit better. So I'll start by just pushing towards the nose. There we go. And then I'll push upwards. And then we'll rotate around. Whoops. So we'll rotate around and then start to push it backwards a bit. Now it's important to not be too far away or not to have your brush too big, because you can see that I'm still pulling the front of the face now and I don't want to do that. So let's pull our brush down a little bit. That was too much. Somewhere around there perhaps. And now I can start pulling in and just pull the nose back out there. And pull the brows down a little bit. And this is quite a tricky bit, this bit, because you want kind of a nice eye socket. But you don't necessarily want it to you know, change the shape of the rest of the face. So I'm just going to pull the eyes up there, perhaps pull it in to narrow the nose at the top. And I'm going to pull this sort of side ridge forward a little bit, just a couple of strokes so that it's not, you know, wrapped around the face, as it were. There we go, let's pull those brows a little bit. Okay, so that's not a bad shape. So now the nose. So again, we're going to the centre, I'm going to pull that out. Not worried too much whether it's a perfect shape or the perfect size, I just want to get it in there. And let's go back around to the front. It is caricature, of course, so you know, it doesn't have to be perfect proportions, but that's a bit high, so I'm going to just pull that down a little bit. So that's sort of the big features, if you like, very basically added in. I'm just going to, now I think about it, I'm going to pull the cheeks forward a little bit. There we go. And I'm also going to go around the front and pull them out a bit as well. There we go. So don't worry if it's not perfect. You know, perfection is, you know, something to be, you know, worked to. It's not absolutely necessary, especially when you're being a bit cartoony like I am here. And you can always adjust later. So I think we're done with that part of it. Next I'm going to start to come in and sketch in some of the kind of medium features to get, you know, a bit more of a picture, because you know, as always, you start very big and basic and flat, and as you work you build it up and you know, into finer details. Okay, so we'll go on to that in the next bit. Talk to you then. Okay, so at this point you'll start to notice that things are getting a bit stretched around, and I like to go up to the remesh area and then just hit the remesh button, making sure your number is of a reasonable kind of level. An easier way to check that is to use Shift and R. So, whoops, need to click in first. There we go, Shift and R. You'll notice you get a grid over, and that gives you the then rough size of the polygon that's going to be created. So at say 0.6, it's or 0.06, it's going to be up there, and then down where we are, which is about 0.3, it's going to be somewhere around there. There we go. And if you do that, you have to do Control and R to actually do the remesh. Okay, so let's start to put in some sort of medium-sized features. So once again, I'm on the snake hook brush, but yeah, I think I'm going to just go to the move brush now, and depending upon what I want to do, I want to expand out the nose there a bit and then bring that in there, perhaps bring the bottom of the nose up a little bit. There we we go. Let's bring the top down. You can always adjust the size of our brush if it's too small. There we go. That's a little better. I want to bring these cheekbones forward a little bit, perhaps down, just to give them a bit more kind of volume. If you get to a point where you're starting to get sort of small kind of ridges that you don't want, hit the shift button and then just mouse over those areas and it will smooth them out. Shift for all of these brushes is kind of the universal key for using smooth. There we go. Just going to smooth at the front a little bit as well. There we go. Just a little touch there. Okay, so what else do I want? Let's do something with the eyebrows. So I'm just going to move around. Whoops. There we go. Find the right button. Just going to move these out a little. I'm going to zoom out so I can do broader things. So zooming out keeps your brush the same size but changes the size of the model, so it effectively becomes a bigger brush. Let's move that out at the side there. I've got a little thing there that I want to get rid of, so I'll just hit shift and smooth that down. I'm going to bring that in, these bits of the eye in here. There we go. And again, just use shift and just smooth out that ridge. That's enough. There we go. Right, so what else do we want? I want to zoom out to start with. Okay, so we'll start to build up kind of the well, what I can only describe as the muzzle, really. So let's bring that out a bit. I'm just going to the side. I'm going to bring it out in that direction as well. There we go. And then the chin, let's put it down there, just bring that outwards. And again, I'm going to move around to the front. Whoops, rotate round so I can see the front. I'm going to expand the jaw down the bottom a little bit to get more of a, you know, bit more volume in there. I'm sort of going for a kind of a trollish character, I'm guessing. So I want it to be quite big, sort of, you know, muscular, brutish features. If you're going for something a little less, you know, a little more delicate, shall we say, then you might not bother. Right, so I'm just going to bring that forward. Just rotate around, always rotating, just to make sure that, you know, everything's going in proportion. There we go. I'm going to widen that to give it a bit more of a muscular kind of look. Okay, so up to now we've used two brushes, like the you know, the elastic move and the move brush, or the grab brush rather, but from here on in I think we'll start to use some of the other brushes to actually add volume to this. And now I've moved this all around, I'm just going to remesh again. So let's remesh just to even out the geometry. Okay, actually I'm going to bring this out just before we finish. Let's take that up a little bit there. Okay, so yes, next we'll start to come in and we'll actually start to add some clay to this, if you like, or add some, you know, volume to it, to put in some they're still medium details, but yeah, not quite as, you know, we can't just move the mesh for these ones. Okay, so I'll talk to you then. Oops, as soon as Okay, so now we're going to start to use some other brushes, and we're going to start to build up some you know, more defined features. I'm going to start with the draw brush up here. With the draw brush, it does what it says on the tin, really. It adds as you draw to your model. So we'll just undo that, and I'm going to set my scale down a little lower. That should be about right. Then let's have a rotate round. I'm going to draw in very gently into the nose there, perhaps on the end as well, just to expand that out a little bit. There we go, that's nice. Just a little bit more, there we go. And I'm going to go across the mouth, so I'm going to kind of build up that bit there. There we go, and then just underneath that for kind of what will eventually end up as the bottom lip, but there's not enough kind of geometry or anything really here to deal with that just yet. Let's do it across the top of that to build up that profile. I don't want it to be flat, and there we go, something along those lines. Now he's got a very big sort of mouth at the moment, but that's all right. I plan to do something with that. Now I've put that lip in, I find that I've not got enough chin, so let me just move up a little bit and rotate it around, and then we're going to go back to the Move Elastic brush. Going to give it some size, not that much. Whoops, let's take that down a little bit. And then I'm just going to bring that down, but as I do that, I'm just going to push these back up again. There we go. Let's have a look around. Let's broaden this bit down the bottom. There we go. Okay, so that's got kind of the startings of our mouth in there. Rest assured we will refine that much more, but I'm just getting the general shapes in essentially. Okay, so where else do I want to do a bit of drawing? Whoops, let's put that down. So let's pick our draw brush again. I'm going to take my size down and just going to draw across the brows here just to accentuate those. Whoops, that was the undo button, didn't mean to press that. There we go. Let's do a bit of work on the cheekbones as well, and underneath, so I don't make them too angular. There we go. Let's just pan up a little bit. I'm just going to draw along the cheekbone. Then up for his jawline, or for his, the back of the jaw rather. Now I've got a little thing down here I don't want, so I'm going to press Shift and just gently brush that out. There we go. Let's have a look. Let's try and get to the front. So, at this stage, at the top of my head, I don't think is quite wide enough, so we're quite at liberty at the moment because we haven't put any real firm details in, just to get a grab brush and start to move as we want. There we go. Let's perhaps bring that down a little bit. His face is getting a bit long perhaps. Don't want him to have much of a brain case up there. It is a sort of trollish thing after all, but a bit more than I've got, I think. Whoops. Oh, stop zooming, John. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to remesh now, just to get everything in place, and then I think next one we will come in and put some sort of eye in here. You'll know, well, you will have noted that we haven't put an eye in yet, and that's because I generally do it at this stage, because I like to get the positioning in there, get the eye sockets in, and then put the eyes in afterwards. Okay, so we'll do that next. Oops. Okay, so for the eye area, we're going to need to come out of sculpt mode and go into object mode, and then I'm just going to add in a quick UV sphere, no, icosphere. No, we're going to go for a cube sphere. There we go. So we'll put in a cube, and then let's just go to our modifiers, and we're going to add in a subdivision surface. I'm just going to hide our original cube. There we go. No, that's not the hide button. That's the hide button. No, it's the wrong hide button. There we go. So we want to increase this because we want to have it at a reasonable kind of resolution, and then we'll apply it. So we'll go there and apply. Okay, so let's unhide our fellow's head, and with the cube selected we'll hit S. Oops, there we go, S, and just scale that down a bit, and then we'll move it roughly into place, and then just rotate to the side, and then we'll use G to move it into some sort of position. There we go. I want to move it up a little bit, I think, so we'll use G and just move that up. There we go, and perhaps just in a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now another modifier, as we want the mirror, and then in the mirror object we'll select our quad sphere, and now we've got a couple of eyes, so let's apply that. Okay, so I want to join these together now. So with both selected, I'll select my quad sphere first, and then with shift held down we'll select the cube, and then we'll go up to the object menu, and is it the object menu? Yep, there we go, we'll have join. So now they're one piece. Okay, let's zoom in on that a little bit. If I can hit the zoom button, or find the zoom button even. There we go. Excuse me. Right, so it's back to sculpt mode. Yeah, and now you'll see that, you know, while they are essentially in the right place and they are a part of this model, it's all, there's separate meshes. So what we could do is just go to remesh and hit remesh, and it will come in. You'll see there's a bit of weirdness where it's joining, but that's okay because we're going to smooth those out and build up those areas. So let's have a look. Make sure I've got symmetry on still. If you happen to join these the other way around, so the head to the eye as opposed to the eyes to the head, you might have to put symmetry back on. Right, so let's have another thing here. Let's pull these out a little so we can see what's what, and we want the fill brush. So that's way too big, so let's go back to our properties and just take that down. And now I'm going to fill in around there. Here we go. Let's rotate a little bit. There we are. Now I want to basically start to draw in some finer details to get some eyelids in and some things underneath to, you know, form the eye itself. And for that I'm going to need to increase my resolution a little bit. So I'm going to press Shift R, and let's take that down somewhere around there, and then remesh or Control R, and now we should have a little bit more in the way of geometry. So now I go to clay strips. So let me just rotate around a bit. So clay strips will do essentially what it says. It will put a strip of clay onto your model. So if I just undo that and now rotate back around, and I'm going to adjust the size a little bit here. Let's take it down, and I just want to draw kind of a strip across the top. Don't worry if it comes in a little jaggedy, that's okay, we can deal with that as we're going. There we go. So that was a bit high, that one, but let's do the bottom. There we go. I'm going to build it up just a little bit more. Okay, so as I said, this bit's a little bit high, so I'm just going to grab the grab brush and make sure I'm at a reasonable kind of level. Just bring that down like that to adjust for my little mistake. Might bring a little bit down there as well. Okay, so for down here I'm going to use fill. Just fill that in till I lose that nasty little line, and then I'll do similar across the top, and then we'll use shift with a smaller brush to just smooth out those eyelids a little bit. There we go. So now we've got something that looks a bit like an eye, which is not bad. Quite happy with that. But I want to sort of refine them a little bit. I'm going to use pinch for that, and I'm going to just pinch across the bottom here on the outside just to firm that up, and similarly across the top. And I may actually build those up a little bit. So let's go back to our clay strips. I'm just going to build those up. I want a much thicker eyelid on there. And similarly along the bottom as well. One side's nice and thick, the other side's not, and that's what I'm just trying to get around. Let's use fill again. Let's just fill that down there. Fill across the top there. There we go. And yeah, I think that's good enough. And when I come to actually tighten up that geometry, when I go down a level to when I go up a level in geometry, I'll have enough there to really do the job. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit and have a look at this fella. Oops, that's entirely the wrong button. There we go. I need to perhaps bring that down a little bit. Let's have a look at the grab brush. There we go, just a little tweak. Okay, so yes, that's the getting the eyes in, and next we'll start to, you know, go in even finer and get some finer detail. So I will talk to you in the next bit. Okay, so we've gone down or up a level of resolution, so you know we have a lot more to work with now. So I'm just going to go to my draw sharp here, make sure I've got quite a tight brush. Let's take that down to about, whoops, somewhere around there. And now I can start to really draw in some finer detail. So I'm just trying to outline some things here. Let's pop that there. I can start to put the nostril pieces in. There we go, nothing too elaborate. It's a bit rough, but we'll sort that out as we go. So there we go. And now I'm just going to press shift, just start to ease out some of those lines on the outside that I don't really want. There we go. Let's have a look up in the nostrils. There we go, and then draw them in a little bit better, which is to rotate underneath a little bit to do that. There we go, and then shift. There, that looks like a much more likely nose. Let's make that a little larger, not that much larger. Now I want to put in the little dent there below the nose, and then I'm going to go back to our grab or move elastic brush. I'm going to just bring that out a little bit, bring the bottom out as well. There we go. Okay, so to start to define the lips a little better, I'm just going to smooth that bit out there. There we go. Now across the top lip I'm going to use the pinch brush So the pinch brush basically pushes things together. So let's do that for there, and now we've got a much sharper line. Whoops, keep pressing the wrong button, silly man. And then I'm just going to use let's use the elastic deform. There we go. Let's have a look around that. Oops. Yeah, I'm just going to make that a little larger. Just going to curve the edges a little bit so they're not quite so straight. And then bring that forward. Might need to bring that down a bit. It's a little bit too far. There we go. Okay, back to my crease brush then, or pinch brush. There we go. Okay, so for the bottom lip, I'm actually wanting to bring it out a little further. So for that, I'm going to use, what shall we use? We'll use a layer. Let's just rotate around a bit. I'm just going to pop a layer over there just to really build that up. Whoops. Let's take that, just undo that actually. And then I'm going to use fill. Where's fill gone? Oops. Looks like there we go. Just to fill in underneath. There we go. And then I can use my elastic deform just to shape that in a bit so it's not quite so angular. I want to bring this bottom part up to start to form, and this part down to form the kind of join where they're, you know, coming together. Let's try fill again, just in there. Oops, no, that was wrong. Let's undo that. Let's use move instead. So for the move, well, for all the brushes really, you know, see we've got this like central part, and then we've got the outer ring. The outer ring is kind of the fall off, and if I reduce or increase the strength, you'll see I've got much less fall off, and sometimes I want less fall off. I don't perhaps want that much less. So that increases essentially the size of my brush. So I'm going to take the brush down because I don't want it to be too big. But now I can really move things in isolation without there being too much fall off. So I can start to bring that up and that down together. Let's pull that out to give it a bit of shape. There we go. Actually, let me increase my brush size here just a touch. I'm going to bring this bit down and push that up. There we go. Let's zoom out a bit, see what we're looking at. Oops, that's not zoom, nor's that. There, so that's added a little bit of extra interest to us. And yeah, next what we'll do is we'll start to put some surface details on, because he's a bit plain at the minute. I'm just actually going to switch over to my matte caps. If you click this little down arrow here, and then under matte cap, we can switch this to a clay shader, and that gives us a bit of a nicer look to look at. If we look under the clay shader, actually we've got down here a cavity option. Oops, I don't want the depth of field option. And now you can see some of these little dark areas, you know, where our cavities are, and if there are any kind of sharp areas, they will lighten up a bit. So that will help us to see what kind of detail we're drawing. So yes, we'll start some surface detail next, so we'll talk to you then. Okay, so there's some muscle detail sort of under the skin, that we want to do here, and there's a muscle that goes from kind of under this cheekbone bit down to this jawbone. So let's use a clay strip for that. Whoops, that's clay strip. Let's take our brush down a little bit. I'm just going to start to brush that in. Don't worry that it looks really harsh, because as I said, we can always smooth it out. And let's just rotate round. I want to build it up a little bit more at the top. There we go. And then we'll use our old favourite shift just to smooth that out. There we go. I'm not worried that there's a few kind of imperfections in there. I just want that to be, well, I want it to be there. We've also got some muscles that come down sort of from the cheek down to the mouth. So there's one that goes sort of roughly from there to there, and another that goes roughly there to there. So let's make our brush a little smaller again. Whoops. I find this quite difficult with a pen. Oop, there we go. And I'm just going to draw those in like that. And perhaps another one to there. And then I'll use my smooth again, so shift. I just want to smooth the edges, and you know, these don't have to be all that definite. I just want them to be there. I want there to be some sort of detail. What else have we got muscle wise? Well, we've got some muscles around the bottom of the mouth, so there's kind of a triangular shaped one in there, so I'm just going to scribble that in, then use shift and and we've got one under the just to the side and under the lip there. Just pop that in and smooth it, and then we've got kind of a one around the middle, which pop that in and smooth it. So there we're starting to get sort of a few kind of muscle details. We've got a big pad of muscle on the top actually, so let's have a look at that one. Let's just pan this down a bit. So there's kind of two, one either side. And let me make this a bit bigger, that's a bit too small for this. There we go. So we've got kind of a pad going somewhere like that. Let's exaggerate a few of these because, yeah, we are being a bit cartoony. And then I'll just do very light smooth over those. And then we've got a pad to the side as well, so let's just pan over here, and all around this kind of area there is another pad of muscle. Whoops, didn't mean to do that horizontal one there, never mind, we'll smooth that out. So shift there, shift at the top, and then a very light smooth around the side. There is a big kind of pad of muscle around the eye, but I think I've pretty much managed to hide all that. And let's have a look what else. We've got a pad across the nose, somewhere around there. There we go. And just shift to smooth the end. Then we've got something kind of down. I'm not really happy with my nose here. I'm just going to use my elastic deform. Let's just zoom out a little bit to get the kind of size we want. There we go. Let's bring the brow forward and that nose back. There we go. Whoops, it turned me reverse a bit too much there. Let's put those down as well. Let's make him a bit more thing. You know, your expression might, you know, not be quite what you want at the moment, but we can deal with that at the end when we take it out of, you know, like symmetry mode and start to put some stuff in. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit there. I just want to smooth down here a little bit, just a teensy weensy bit there. There we go, something like that. Okay, so the other thing that we can have a look at is doing an all over kind of scribble. I say scribble, it's not really a scribble, it's just sort of taking out the smoothness of a lot of those areas. So we've got a lot of smooth area which doesn't really do anything, which is not that good for us. So I like to use the clay brush for that. So let me make that quite small. Whoops. And then we can just kind of hatch around there various levels of pressure and sort of lightness. There we go. Just to kind of break it up to make it less smooth, because you know, I mean, if you look at yourself, you know, there's barely a bit on you that's smooth. Well, you might be younger and more smooth than I am, but I certainly haven't got any smooth bits anymore. There we go, just hatching away. Okay. Let's rotate that down a bit. Let's do some across the kind of eyebrows there. I'm not trying to put eyebrows in, you know, actually kind of hair bits, but just trying to rough up that area. Right, zoom out a bit. There we go. Just go and find another bit that I haven't done. So back here, just hatching to give some sort of idea of detail, if not actual kind of anatomically correct anything, because, well, you know, I certainly am not good enough to do anything that looks, you know, anatomically correct. Not in this time frame anyway. Maybe in you know, dozens and dozens of hours, but not, you know, just to do as a demonstration. Okay, whoops, let's put some bits sort of radiating from the corner of that eye there. There we go. Do some planes on the nose. I think very exciting. Just giving a bit of direction to it. There we go. Okay, so he's not very trollish at the minute. So what we're going to do next is really mess it about to, you know, get something out there. I noticed that I've lost a bit of my kind of dent there, so I'll just pop that back in. Okay, so when we come in, we're going to perhaps change some proportions, and we're going to add some more troll-like features to him. So I shall talk to you then. Okay, so let's make this fella a bit more monstrous. So for that, I'm going to start to use masking. So if you press M on the keyboard, you'll get the mask brush up, and I just want to draw in then a kind of circular area where I'm going to put a horn, and yeah, that's okay. And perhaps we'll put another one just around here, just drawing it in so it's nice and dark. Okay, so that's kind of the wrong way around for what we want. We want to manipulate the interior of that. So if you press Control and I, it will invert that area. And now I'm going to use my draw brush, and I'm going to change the fall off to something a bit more sharp. Let's go sharper. I'm just going to draw on there until I get a nice little bump up. Same there. It's not the end of what we're going to do, but you know, it will get us started. There we go. Let's just bring this one up a little bit more. Okay, so now let's zoom in a little bit. Whoops, that's not zoom. That is zoom, and that's pan. There we go. So I'm just going to get to kind of a side view here, and then move it down. And now I'm going to use the snake hook brush. So the snake hook brush, basically, if I just demonstrate quickly, will take geometry and just pull it out, but it's how can I put it? It's a little bit, can't remember the word I'm looking for now. Let me maximise that. It's a little bit finicky. If you take it too far, you'll stretch your polygons too far. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. Let me just make this a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to grab that and pull it out, and then we'll rotate around to the side, and we'll have this one going off in this direction. We'll curl it up a little bit just for fun. Okay, so now I want to put like something around the base of that, whoops, to kind of embed it into the skin a little bit more. So we'll press Control I again, and then back to our little draw brush. I'm going to switch my fall off back to smooth, and then let's take this down a little bit, take the brush size down. There we go. Is that right? Yeah, it's not far off. No, that's too small. There we go, somewhere about there. And I'm just going to draw around the mask essentially to have a little ridge where the horn is coming out of. So let's pop that around. Don't necessarily need it to be completely smooth. This is kind of an organic thing, so just go nuts with it. Similarly, we want one for here as well. A little bit close to the eye there, but yeah, we'll cope with that, I think. There we go. Now it looks a bit more beastly. While we're here, actually, what I want to do is just smooth, or rather fill in around the outside of that. So let's select the fill tool, give ourselves a bit of width for brush size. I'm just going to fill around the outside a little bit. So the inner ridge is a bit more prominent than the outer ridge. I hope that makes some sense. Let's just go back to draw again. Whoops, got a sleeve size brush. Just enhance that a little bit. This bit's gone a bit nuts. Let's use the tool we haven't used yet. I'm going to use Scrape, which does exactly what it says on the tin and scrapes at your surface. So I'm just going to draw over that in a few kind of areas. There we go. So once you've finished with your mask, if you press Control and M, that's M for mother, it will remove. And let me just remesh that so that this end comes a little bit better. And then I'm just going to put a little kind of earbud in. I'm not putting a full ear in. Much as the rest of his features are quite quite defined. I don't want the ear to be that much. So what I want for the ear is kind of a swirl, just like that. So let me, whoops, it's not masking. Why is it not masking? I'm on the mask brush. Let's increase that. No, something's not right. Let me see what's going on here. I'm selected on it, aren't I? Let me unselect and reselect. No, looks like it's decided to go a bit mad. There we go. It was hidden, cunningly hidden from view. Okay, so what was it? Control M. Sorry, it's Alt M to clear the mask. I didn't say Control earlier. Sorry if I did. So I want a little swirl here, which I'm going to raise up. So I'm going to make this a little smaller. Whoops. There we go. I'm going to make the hardness a little higher. There we go. And just draw something along those lines. Okay. So we'll invert with Control I. And now let's actually do a different thing. Let's use our elastic deform. Let's give that a little bit of size. And then Let's scoot around this way. I'm just going to bring that out. There we go. So that's not far off what I was after. I wanted a little bit more in the middle. So let's Alt and M to get rid of our mask. Now I can manipulate a bit. We could use our draw brush, but switch it to negative, and we can draw in there. I need a smaller brush for this. Let's take that down. There we go. So now I've got a slightly nicer hole in there. Whoops. Now I want to kind of pinch the ear a little bit. So let's use the where is it? Where's pinch gone? There it is. So we use pinch around that line to make that a little bit sharper on the outside. There we go. And if you wanted to, you could go in with draw, make your brush a bit smaller, and just pop some detail in. Use your plus and your minus just to give it a little bit extra, a little bit of depth in there. There we go. You see that's getting quite stretched in there, so I'll go and do a quick remesh. There we go. If I want to fill that in or smooth it out, let's use my shift and just be very gentle in there to not do too much in the way of damage. If you want to extend these out, we could use our friend the snake hook. Let's make that a little bigger. Just give it some shape as you want it. And if you go in various directions, it will go in various directions. You just need to be a bit more gentle with it or have more geometry. So let's just undo that and just do a little wiggle. There we go. Let's perhaps take that around. You can use your snake hook brush, not just to pull out. You can use it for other things as well on the actual mesh, and that gives us a bit more of a interesting kind of thing. I'm going to use my elastic deform now to bring the back of the ear out a little bit, so that it's a bit more of a, you could think that sound would hit it and be directed in. It was a little bit thin before. There we go. So let's have a zoom out and have a look at him. There we go. Looks like quite a happy troll. It's good. We like things to be happy. So what will we do next? I think I'm going to come in and do some more surface refining, tighten up some bits, put some surface detail onto those horns, and then see where we go from there. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so his horns are a little bit on the how can I put it, perfect side at the moment, so I'm going to mess them up a bit. Let me take that down a little bit there, the strength, and no, that's too big. Let me pull this back in a little bit. There we go. Just want to pull this out a little bit to give it a little bit more volume, and then we go to our clay brush. I'm going to make it quite small. Whoops, that's not how you do it. That's how you do it. And then I'm going to start to draw into these. And if I use my control key, I can invert the tool. It's a bit like just pressing plus and minus up here, but it's a bit easier. So let's put in some kind of detail here. Just putting it around, just alternating between adding and subtracting. Oops. You can even sort of cross kind of paths as you're going. And similarly, off the kind of rims around the horn, I want to put some lines kind of radiating out from it, if you like. Don't worry that they are kind of thick and, you know, come off at one end. We're going to deal with that with the shift button. So I'm just going to hit shift and just paint across the ends so that they fade out a little bit. You can fade out one side or the other depending upon what you want. There we go. And where are we? So let's pan around and do a little bit of that over this side as well. And then smooth those out with the shift button. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so we also want to do up here, and I'm a little bit close now, so I'm just going to, whoops, zoom out a little bit. Once my zoom button decides it's going to work. Oh, perhaps it is working, I'm just not, not doing a very good job. Oh no, I'm on the wrong button entirely, sorry. And yeah, let's draw into this, give it some surface kind of imperfections and such like. Yeah, alternate with the control key. Just so that they're, you know, rough and kind of a bit bony perhaps. So we're going to put some heavier detail into these a little bit later when we come out of symmetry mode to give it some, you know, asymmetrical detail. There we go. Right, let's see if I can find the zoom button again. There we go. Okay, so if I want to make this guy a little bit more animalistic, which I do, I'm going to extend his kind of muzzle out a little bit. So let me just get to the side. We'll use our elastic deform, get it nice and big, and let's pull that forward. I'm just going to rotate around to the side. I'm going to give him a bit of width as well. So, you know, even when you've, you know, got quite a long way down the road, you can always change it, you can always add something, you can always, you know, give it a little bit extra, change the shape, and, you know, do what you want really. Okay, so while we're here, I want to deal with the mouth a little bit, so let's zoom in. So I'm going to go to my where is it, scrape brush, and let's make that nice and small. I'm going to start scraping away at these edges just to rough these lips up a bit. Whoops, I don't know what I've done there. I'll never find it now. Oh, there it is. Come on. There we go. And then we'll go back to our clay brush. We'll make this really quite small. There we go. Start to put some kind of surface into them. And again, you know, with my control, we can start to, you know, alternate between positive and negative strokes to get some nice sort of details in there, surface detail, to make our thing look a little bit more, you know, realistic. I'm just going to radiate out a little bit from there. I'll do the same on the top. Want to kind of almost break the lip line so that it's not quite so human as I had originally made it. Certainly didn't intend to make a human. Right, I'm going to go back to draw now and make a smaller brush and let's draw in there. I'm on negative currently, but we can go both ways. I'm almost scribbling now just to get that in there. Don't want to neglect kind of the top plane there. Whoops, I have no idea where I am now. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm right around the back. Now, I want to do that on the kind of top as well. Maybe go over the lines, make him look a bit kind of rougher. There we go. Starting to look good. And now, just while I think about it, I'm going to use this draw brush just to very gently draw some kind of directional lines around our model here. There we go. I'll continue doing that around, perhaps do that in between videos. Yeah, you know what I'm doing. Yeah, you don't need to see me do everything. Just to, you know, give it some form and shape and perhaps direction to the eye. There we go. Now I'm a little bit concerned about the nose. I want the nose to go backwards. So let's get our elastic deform up and see how big our brush is. Let's make that a bit bigger. So I'm going to push that upwards and back. That's a bit more animal-like. So push that aside, make it a bit wider. Yeah, I mean it's so wide you probably can't see see beyond it now. Okay, let's. Whoops, too big. Control Z. There we go. Okay, so what do we want to do next? That's a good question. Basically, oh no, that is horrible. Look, I want to fix that ear. I didn't intend it to be quite so wiggly like that. It's not bad, but so we'll fix a few things up, and then I think I want to go into asymmetrical detail to, you know, give him a bit more of a realistic kind of look. Because, you know, nothing in life is that symmetrical, and we haven't come out of symmetry yet. Okay, so I'll talk to you then. Okay, so let's just have a look at these ears for a second. I just want to flatten them out a bit. Let's use our elastic deform. Let's get to a suitable size. It's too big. There we go, somewhere around there. I just want to grab those out, straighten them up a bit. It's too big still. Whoops. There we go, it's a bit better. Still a little bit in there, but yeah, I'm happy enough. I'll just pull those back a bit. There we go. So now what I was saying was that we need a bit of asymmetry in this fella. So if I now turn my symmetry off, I can work on one side without affecting the other. yeah, seems sensible. So I'm going to use my draw sharp, and I'm going to give him a scar somewhere. So let's give him a scar down his eye, or down below his eye. Let's make our brush nice and small, and then I'm just going to carve that in there. Then I'm going to use a pinch to just grab at one end and at the other end to fade that off. There we go. And then I'll just go in there and use my scrape tool and zoom in a little bit. Whoops. Just scraping away at those edges to, you know, add it in. There we go. So now he's got a scar on that side. Perhaps give him another one. Let's give him another one. And so let's give him a longer one, perhaps down his jaw at an angle. There we go. Let's just dig that in, and then I'll use pinch at either end just to flatten those out, and then I'll use where it's scrape gone just to scrape at those edges to make them a little bit less perfect. There we go. Okay, so what else can we do? Well, we can give them some spots or some lumps, boils, whatever you want to call them. So let's bring that size up a little bit. There we go. Give him one on his nose, because, well, we all get them there. Well, not so much these days. Perhaps on under his eye there. Just build that up, and whoops, back to scrape again, and I'm just going to scrape away at it so that it's not quite so perfect. Same on this one. Whoops, make it a little bit flatter there, a little bit flatter there, a little bit flatter there. There we go. Right, whoops, oh, I've done it again. There we go. So what else can we do? Well, we can do all sorts of things. One thing is the horns. You know, maybe the horns are symmetrical, maybe they're not. So I'm going to go to an elastic deform and then just rotate around till I get a good angle on one without anything behind it, and I'm just going to move it. So it's a subtle difference, and this one perhaps I'll make a bit shorter, and this one perhaps I'll bring in. I need a smaller brush than that for that one because it's getting onto the head. There we go. And this one I'll perhaps take up a bit, just to make sure that, you know, he isn't absolutely symmetrical. Whoops, that's too far away. Let me undo that and zoom in a bit. And I can just pull that down a little there. Perhaps move that up. Perhaps a little bit on the cheek. Perhaps the mouth. The mouth's an interesting one because we could give him a kind of an expression here, a little sneer, by just moving the mouth around a little bit to, you know, give him some sort of expression. Let's pull that back. There we go. Even the eyes, you know, we can have a go at those. So one of them I'm going to just squeeze down and up a little, so he's kind of got a squint going. There we go. So let's do a little bit more drawing on the surface here. Whoops, that's way too big. There we go. Just spotting bits every time I look that aren't quite right. Let's don't want to work too much on one side because then it'll be really, you know, out. But don't forget the other side as well. Just put a few things in random places, perhaps along his jaw there, maybe even a scar on his jaw. Let's try that. Let's just rotate that around a little bit so I can see it. We'll use our pinch brush, make that a bit bigger, pinch the end together and that end. There we go. Let's stand back and have a look just quickly. There we go, it looks a bit meaner now. Don't like this too much, but I can deal with that. I could perhaps use my elastic deform and take my size down a little bit and just work either side until I squeeze them together a little bit. There we go. Similarly here we could do the same, to work both sides just to bring those together. Okay, there's some things I want to firm up on this. There's some things I want to sort of smooth out just to finish off the model. So we'll do those in the next little bit. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off a little bit, and for that I'm going to want some more resolution, because I want to tighten up these eye lines here. I want to dig more up into there, and I don't believe I've got enough to do that just yet. So let's click in. There we go. And if I go to Shift and R, and then I want to bring that down even further than I had it, and then we can either use Control R or remesh to give myself some extra geometry. Now it's worth noting that depending upon your PC, it will depend upon how long this takes. The lower your number goes, the slower it's going to be. So let me go and find smooth. Where's smooth gone? Just want to smooth that little bit out in there. And then I want pinch. Where's pinch gone? I know it's here somewhere. There it is. So I want to start pinching at these edges here to sharpen them up a bit. So let me sharpen in there. Oh, I want to put symmetry back on. Well, I can't put symmetry back on because it's not symmetrical anymore. There we go. Just sharpen up around the eyes there. I've got a little bit of fuzz in there, so I'm just going to use Shift and very lightly smooth that out. Similarly on the bottom, so use Shift, very lightly smooth that out. Got a little bit in there, so just take the light smooth on that one. I'm pressing the wrong button. There we go. And then similarly over here. Now I could use a where is it? Grab no cook thumb. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah, I could use a draw sharp in here just to redefine that line a little bit more, and then use my Shift. There we go. And again, Shift just to smooth that out a little bit. Perhaps go over that with a bit of a harder pinch. Maybe need to make that a little larger. There we go. Just pinch in there as well. Okay, so my nostrils aren't sort of going far enough up, so let's dig those out a little bit. So what I'll use is draw here, but I'm just going to go over to negative. I'm going to make this a bit bigger over this side, and then start to draw in there to really get some depth going. Need to sort of turn around every once in a while just to see just how far I'm going. Yeah, as I said, from one angle you might think it's alright, but if you look at another angle you might think, oh well, it's not quite right from there. There we go. It's nearly filling that volume now. Just push it inwards a little bit in that direction. That should really, you know, catch some nice shadows down there. Right, let's zoom out and have a look at him. Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's more or less everything in terms of sort of technique and such like. You of course can, you know, go on and do much more. I'm just going to dig out the nose a little bit here, just in that bit there, and then just smooth that out a little bit. Whoops, I've done it again. There we go. I've got a slider on this tablet which does a zoom job, and I'm not quite used to it just yet. I'll need to do that on this side as well. Just in there. There we go, and then shift to smooth it out. There we go. Whoops. That was not my rotate key, that was the Control Z key. There we go. Might even build up that nostril a little bit. Let's take that down. Anyway, sorry, I'm distracting myself now. I was trying to finish the video. So, whoops. Helps if you're on plus. There we go. That's better. So, yes. Just go for it. You know, take it slow, take it easy. You know, it's relatively few tools to get, you know, to something like this. It's just about, you know, getting the volume right in the first place, you know, and then refining, going down and down and down in levels of detail until you're at the really fine end. And then it's, yeah, just getting it, you know, to your vision essentially. I intended this to be more troll-like. He's not really turned out to be a troll. Not entirely sure what he has turned out to be. But yeah, there you go. That's what happens when you're doing it from your head. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you found some useful tips here. If you're interested in the tablet I'm using, it's a Huion, Huion. I'm not affiliated. I'm not, you know, I'm not paid by them or anything. I just decided a tablet tool needed to be bought, and this is what I went for. And you know, it's excellent. You know, sculpting wise, it's really, really helped me. Okay, so thank you very much, and I will talk to you soon.